by Mike, the Big Cheese. narcissistic whore. This is the case of ideological warfare. Twisted for your corrupted schemes. Your twisted population make you realize your dreams. Aggressor, you need is to make, to massacre the innocents, the elementary grave. Slaughter, a ticket tapper, mass annihilation, apocalyptic scale. Judgment, you're in control of the show. The hour retribution's gonna lay you low. Just an egocentric, narcissistic whore. This is the case of ideological warfare. Nowhere to run. You can't hide. The evil tyrant's got you in his sights. Stand up and fight. Hold your head up high. It's one man's war we fight. It's bloodthirsty. Violence, looking overhead, crushing the souls with a thirst for bloodshed. Psycho, preparing for war. It's time to read this planet on this filthy whore. Hatred, spill the poison below. You for propaganda to our innocent souls. Evil, no use in mankind. Authoritarian, listen of the sorrowful mind. Just an egocentric, narcissistic whore. This is the case of ideological warfare. Nowhere to run. You can't hide. The evil tyrant's got you in its sights. Stand up and fight. Hold your head up high. It's one man's war we fight. It's bloodthirsty.
Steve, John, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Hi. How you doing?
What brings you two here?
How are you guys today?
Yeah, we're cool, man. You?
Good. I'm amazed that
correct.
this even. I'm amazed that this even worked because I'm horrible with this technology. I can't figure any of these things out, but we're all here, so that's a good thing.
This is technology, mate. This is technology. Welcome to the UK. This is technology. We invented technology. Okay.
Hey, well, listen, it's great to have you both on here today. You guys just put out an amazing
Yeah.
record. I mean, Reside in Furnace. I mean, I'll start with you, John. How did you hook up with the band? Because Jason and Steve go back a long way from the Onslaught days. How did you come into the project?
Well, I met Steve first in the 80s. As a big fan of Onslaught back in the day, and we only lived about a mile away anyway, so both went to the same school. And so an opportunity arose a couple of years ago where I was asked to join, audition really for Insult. And that's where that came about really. And then we began writing some original material, which and we wanted to keep the original sound of the band, really, that sort of punky edge. So it's just trying to bring that into it, really.
Yeah, Steve, when you go back to the early Onslaught days, I mean, you and Jace go back there, you even before Jace in the band. I mean, you guys kind of melded the punk and the heavy metal movement at the same time. Something like what Motorhead was doing and Warfare was doing. You guys were sort of the first band doing that back then, mixing the two cultures together. I mean, now you're continuing that with Insult, which I think is great because it's kind of lacking in music today. Not a lot of bands are mixing and matching that type of style of music.
Mm.
We don't follow any recipes. I mean, obviously my roots was in the punk scene, but when I met the original, me and Rocket founded Onslaught, I had the kind of the metal sort of blood running through me, and I was listening to Iron Maiden and Motorhead, whereas he was listening to Discharge and GBH, and we kind of got together. And although I was into the punk stuff myself, it was really like the kind of the technical side of music that like Phil Taylor from Motorhead was like really sort of exciting me, and that's really where we formed as a punk band. Like it was kind of my injection of the Motorhead interest and the Iron Maiden that kind of really sort of took us down that route.
Yeah, over the years, Onslaught moved away from that sound, one way or the other. Are you
Yeah.
trying to like bring back those days and bring back that sound you guys created early on, but with a new edge, with Insult?
Well, I mean, Jace, the vocalist Jace Howell. I mean, he's a sort of he's a diehard punk. I mean, he's never really been into the metal scene. So when we got back together after all those years, our intention was to sort of do punk covers just on the local scene, just for a bit of fun, which we did. I mean, we was doing like the Damned, and we was doing the Ruts, that kind of thing, British, typical sort of British early punk stuff. And then I think John one day at rehearsal just started playing this riff, and I sort of like, what the hell are you playing there, Johnny? He said, it's just some stuff I've written for my own personal kind of my own personal sort of vault, I said, right, let's put a couple of beats to that, and we started playing this stuff, and it was like, we should write some stuff, guys. We really need to sort of put this down on vinyl.
Yeah. So, John, you kind of created the sound that the band is going with right now. I mean, so like, influence-wise, I mean, do you try to keep it new and original? Do you try to say, hey, let's go a little throwback to the old days of Onslaught and mix that in with what we're doing now? You also have the Sanity days that, Steve was a part of, which was completely different than all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of different. I think Steve's really been sort of growing as in the bands he's been in anyway, musically. And I suppose that some of that is infused into this Insult band. And the influences for me are very similar to Steve's anyway. But I've also got quite a lot of other influences, very much into sort of more death metal and stuff. So yeah, it was really kind of, I'm a bit nostalgic. I miss some of those old songs, like from the 80s. And like the music that Steve was putting out in the 80s, I absolutely loved that style of metal. I miss it a bit, and I think we tried to get a bit of that on this album, that kind of nostalgic feel for what metal was about, and it's sort of when it was really huge back in the 80s, and it's still quite a big genre now, but I think that was it really.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to miss Rob's name out of this conversation either, because Rob was heavily involved in some of the riff writing for this album. I mean, John and Rob together, and myself, really, we kind of like put our heads together, and we're in a certain sort of area where we needed a different riff that perhaps John's riff wasn't fitting. I'd say Rob knocked him, and Rob would come out of these riffs, and we'd all just start laughing and saying like, "Where are you guys getting this from?" It's kind of, it's coming from nowhere. I mean, I didn't for 1 minute expect these guys to be able to write riffs like they've written for this album. And apparently there's more somewhere, John, they're hidden away.
There's more.
Sorry. Well, from talking to Nigel over the years on the show, to him, the Sanity Days record was the end of the world to him. I mean, it felt like it brought down the band. Is that your opinion of it too? Because I thought it was a great record. It was a different record then, and John, to being a fan from back in the day, could attest to. I mean, I thought it was musically, it was a tremendous record, just not a typical Onslaught record. But he blames the whole demise of the band on that. How do you feel about that record, the both of you, as somebody played on and somebody who was listening to it back then?
I don't quite know where he's coming from with that comment, to be honest with you, because he wrote the record, so how can he say that? Um, his musical interest took a completely different route back then. I mean, he started listening to a lot of really weird funk stuff, which I was completely, I just didn't understand that at all. And he was also listening to Striper at the time, hence Stefan Galfas coming in, so it was totally planned. To sit there and say it was the demise of the band, well, that's complete garbage as far as I'm concerned. We wrote that album, I mean, I put the drum tracks down, to the type of music we were listening to at that time. And at that time, it happened to be Striper, believe it or not. Yeah, we didn't agree with any of the lyrics they were writing. It's totally against what we was set up for. But, I mean, they were a heavy band. They wrote some great riffs. They wrote some great melodies. They had great production. All right, it was a Christian rock band, but there we are. I mean, that's putting it on record. That is what happened at the time with the Sanity album. Steve Grimmett came in to bring that kind of mainstream metal vocal, which he did and did excellently, I have to say. The album was made up and built exactly how it was planned to be built.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, when you're in a band, you look for a commercial sound in a way, because if you want to get radio play, you have no choice. He says that he has the original tapes with Sion vocals, and they were so much better, and he's going to try to do something with them. But to me, I thought it was a great record, and I loved it when you guys got back together. I think it was 20 years later, and put out another album under that name. I thought it was some really good stuff, and it's a shame that it doesn't get the attention that album deserves, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a great album. It was a great album. It thrust us into the mainstream. It got us in the national charts in the UK. Shame at the time things weren't quite going our way in terms of management, but had we had the right management, then who knows what would have happened.
Yeah. Was Insult sort of formed after the breakup, or at least you leaving Onslaught? Was it in the infancy stages back then?
Insult was a band that was created by me and Nige back in the 80s. And it shuffled around different members of Onslaught, but the guy that sings for Insult now, who was a roadie at the time, used to sing for Insult back in those days. And we used to do punk covers, and we used to do, go around the clubs and pubs and just having a bit of a laugh when Onslaught was touring.
I'll just say, actually, I did go to see Insult originally in the 80s. One of the roughest gigs I've ever been to. I was covered in bruises and cutlet and blood everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't play any songs as Insult. Insult name was a throw on Onslaught, basically, by some of the local guys that we drink with. They used to call Onslaught Insult. So we sort of carried that name through as a bit of a joke, really. When Jace Howell contacted me back in 2022, 23, he basically said, do you fancy getting Insult back together again for a laugh, for a few gigs, etc.? So we did, and it's kind of moved on from there. And whether we kept that name Insult or not, I wasn't quite too keen on, but Jason insisted on keeping it, so we did.
Yeah, Jonathan, because you have two guys in the band that came from Onslaught, they built up a name and a recognition. What's the challenges today of forming a new band? Because Insult technically is a new band when you think about it. It's new music, a new group.
Yeah.
What's the challenges of forming a new band today and trying to get it to take off?
I mean, I've been in a lot of bands over the years, and I've got to be honest, we socialise heavily as a band, which I've never done in a band before. It's just the five of us get on so well. And like what Steve was saying, really Rob, it's really rare to get two lead guitarists, who don't fight each other. Me and Rob, we're like brothers. We see them meld together. I hope that comes through on the music as well. And it's a very unusual setup. So we write as a band, and there's none of this usual what you tend to get in some bands, like infighting. It's a fresh air, it really is. And I think that's it's what's very unique about Insult as a band, really.
You collaborating with another guitar player could always be, it could go both ways. You can either make it work out and you can get along, and then there can be times when, you're just not seeing eye to eye on a certain riff or a certain song. So, I mean, is it easy to work through it with, the band members you have right now? We can say, hey, you know what, this isn't working, but let's try it this way. Or do you kind of stand your ground and say, no, this is what I came up with, this is what we're going to use?
No, I think, Steve is the orchestrator, and he's got a really good mind for building songs, which I don't have. I could give Steve riffs every day, but I wouldn't be able to build the songs we're building. Does that make sense? As Steve had something inside his head, he's able to hear things and say, well, actually, if you push that there, change that riff or that, write a bit of a lead line there, and that's how we sort of build the songs, basically. There's been bits, I'd say probably me and Rob could probably both say, there's a riff or two we would have liked to have kept, but when you listen back to it now, it sounds better after we tweaked it, whatever we decided as a band sort of thing, really. Yeah,
Everything's done in agreement. I mean,
exactly.
The fact that I kind of write the lyrics and the melodies, sometimes some of the riffs don't quite lend themselves nicely for putting a vocal line over it, and we've been even the title track of the album, and we had this pre-chorus in there which we kept, but it used to really grind me. I just couldn't stand it, and we left it to the very last minute to change that pre-chorus, and it kind of changed the whole feel of the song as well, didn't it, really?
Totally, yeah.
That's
Funny
great.
bit was we all agreed on the end that we all disliked the previous one.
Yeah, I can't find a copy of that old track.
Yeah.
It's
somewhere.
There is a big difference sometimes to when you're writing and composing a song and putting bits and pieces together than to hearing the whole final product at the end. And that's when you say to yourselves, this didn't work out, maybe this part didn't work out. And you do have to make a lot of changes in order to get a song to the way you want it. I mean, but it seems like on this record, it sounds to me like everything came together relatively easy, because you can kind of tell when a band is struggling when they put out music and when it's kind of natural. And this feels really natural, this record. Like you guys were all on the same page and you knew what you wanted and you made it happen. Whether you had to cut and edit things out or not, it sounds like it's, over there where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I think that was the way we were sort of thinking about building it, really. It's just a very fluid sort of process, if you like. And, I think it's really challenging for musicians. It's getting over that preciousness of writing a riff or a lyric or anything and being quite precious about it. And then obviously it doesn't fit with what we're trying to do. And so it does take quite a bit of a bit of humble pie to sort of sit there and say, right, actually, yeah, the guys are right, actually. I think maybe it would sound better if we tweak that about, But in this band, it just seems to work. We don't end up with a massive fight or something, It seems to be very, if you like, a good democracy in the band,
That's hard to come across these days, because
It's hard,
sometimes
yeah.
everything works out great in the beginning, but as time goes on, friction takes place and things happen. I think it's always good when you can manage to keep the band and the personality separate from the music and just make it work for the sake of the fans who want to hear this music.
Yes. That is, I'll be honest, that's the key of this album anyways. It's about something to give to the fans. And that's where the passion is, really. We're trying to sort of, put that passion across. This is for people to, we're not serving ourselves here. It's sort of like, oh, look what I can do sort of thing. It's like, a kind of gift, I suppose. What musicians do anyway, don't they? They gift their music and hope that people like it. And
what I find quite interesting is when we read the album reviews now, it's kind of they write the review exactly how we kind of wrote the album. We wanted to include a couple of like punky sounding songs. We wanted some more metal sounding songs. We wanted some kind of bits sort of slightly obscure, and they put this in the reviews exactly as we kind of planned wrote the album, didn't they, John? And you can see listening to the album, it's blatantly obvious which two tracks we wrote first, because that was when we was just sort of like shaping up as a kind of a punk band, So the two tracks that stand like a sore thumb are basically Like We Despise and Broken Mind, which are the two sort of upbeat, fast, punchy, punky songs on the album. And then we sort of had a little chat and said, maybe this is sounding a bit too punky, we should do a bit more metal into it, and then we went with, I think it was Berserker, which sort of crossed a nice bridge, a sort of punk to the metal kind of sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now that you kind of define the sound of the band, what people are going to expect from Insult in the future, do you continue down this path of songwriting, or is there room for change or room to add, or become more metal, less punk, or more punk, less metal? How does it go from here on out now with the new songs that are going to be coming out, hopefully soon?
Well, we spoke about this down the pub the other week, me and John, and I think Jace Howe was like kind of like overhearing our conversation, and I said to John, it wouldn't really hurt to sort of like branch out onto another kind of sound or something, and I think Jace sort of shut us down and said, no, we ain't doing that, we're keeping it, but is what it
Everyone's
is.
a bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
We're rehearsing at the moment for this festival in Germany in a couple of weeks. So we're concentrating on rehearsing for that. But when we come back, we've already got a couple of track names, titles, kind of ideas for the lyrics. John's messed around with a couple of riffs, but nothing. I know you've got a closet full of riffs, John, but nothing that I wanted to do like a real open chord riff, with a lot of room for vocals to sort of like, which we're going to work on that when we come back. I've got a few ideas to play around with. We've got some, as I say, we may even have the name for the album as well.
That's great. Well, you're talking about the Keep It True Festival, Rising, coming up this fall. Next year, you're, I think, at Headbangers Open Air. I think both festivals wanted you to focus on the Onslaught music? Because with this great record out, I would think that you'd want to, play the whole album, what you can off of it. But did they ask you to just give them an Onslaught set?
They don't ask us to give them an Onslaught set. I mean, I think it basically comes from this kind of 40th anniversary of Power from Hell. And the fact that we got 50% of the band in this band, it came to their mind. I mean, the gig we're doing, the Keep It True Festival, initially was going to be with Paul Mahoney. They asked me to do the gig with Paul Mahoney, Jay Stallard, and potentially Cy Keeler as well. Paul Mahoney wasn't interested in doing it really. Cy said he's up for it. So we sort of like took that on board, and we kind of started putting the set together with Cy singing. But as it stands, I mean, Cy, I don't think Cy, he's not too well at the moment. Cy, so I think he wants to sort of step back from it. But I mean, I don't mind playing a couple of tracks from it, but ultimately we want to concentrate on what we're doing. I mean, there's no getting away from our past. This is what we did. This is what sort of got us into
Absolutely.
the scene. So people are always going to associate me with that. So.
And that's fun, and that's a part of your past and a big part of your musical past. So you should, revisit it here and there. But I feel like it's such a great record not to let it all come out and not to let people hear it because a promoter says, "Well, I prefer to hear this," but this is who the band is right now. And I can see you mixing in songs and doing both, but it just seems like a shame to me that you can't get out there and give them an entire insult show, what people should have and deserve.
But when. This time next year, I think it'll be a different story when people know more about what we're doing, and that's basically kind of a step up. It's a foot on the ladder to get us into the shows and into the arena kind of thing. This time next year, I think it'll be different. We're talking to some other festivals at the moment who haven't mentioned, my sort of past. They've heard about this album and they want us to get on, include us on the bill due to what we're doing now, not what we've done in the past.
Yeah. Well, I think this album is strong enough to speak for itself and to get promoters to say, "Hey, let's get Insult on the bill," And so I think you really accomplished that with this album. And you think about the music business today. It's not what it was when we were kids. It's not what it was when Onslaught started out, and it's a whole different beast right now. So how do you guys approach the business part of it today? I mean, it's more do-it-yourself. It was always kind of do-it-yourself, the heavy metal genre, but today it seems like bands have more control over everything, and there's less involvement from a label outside of just distributing what you give them. So how do you approach the business side of the music business today?
Well, we are signed with a label, but as you say, it's a much more arm's reach sort of thing. We're not sort of we're not managed by the label where I suppose you would have been more so years ago. It's sort of directed in a certain direction. So we've got no pressure with artistic creation, which is nice. So as a band, we're free to create the music we wish to create, and obviously we want to create music that people want to buy and want to sort of come and watch us play and keep the vibe of the first album going. It has shifted, and also I think because of that, there's a hell of a lot more bands out there than there used to be releasing albums. So the competition is vast these days. So even just to try and get a brand new album noticed these days is a far bigger challenge. I think there may be. It was hard when Steve was doing it in the 80s, but I think because there's such a huge volume now, and it's global because of the internet, it really is quite a feat to try and do that.
It really is.
I stumbled across this box only this morning. I was looking at something and I found this box, and it was full of Kerrangs and Metal Hammer and Raw magazines back from the 80s, back from the day. And I was actually trying to see if I could find one with Ozzy Osbourne on the front cover. Actually,
Mm.
no, I couldn't find one. But
Well,
I was glancing at all these front covers, and it was the same band's name. There's the same band's name on every magazine. So there was far few bands around in those days, back in the 80s. You know, there was
mm.
far less competition. Now the market is just swarmed with bands. And you look
Mm.
at these festivals now. I mean, I was looking at the lineup for back, and yes, and it's like, wow, how many bands can you cram onto a festival? You know, there's hundreds and
Mm.
hundreds of bands on these festivals, and this fierce competition.
It's
Yeah.
insane. I just saw some festival lineup. I can't remember the name of the festival. Somewhere in Northern Europe, there had to be over 200 bands on this festival over 5 days. It was like 25 bands a day. I only heard of
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
4 or 5 of them, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
knowledgeable in the business.
Well,
I'm like, where do all these bands come from in that one area of the country?
yeah. So you know, you we don't want to be stand out and reinvent the world and be special, and you know, we just want to do what we like doing. We've written a song because we like the music, we like the songs. The fact that other people are liking it is a bonus to us.
A bonus. Yeah. Yeah.
That's very true. Well, like we said, with the social media today, people think it's a lot easier to reach out to fans, and you can find out where they're coming from. We have fans in South America, we got
Mm.
fans in Japan. It's easy to the analytics are right there for you right now. We're back in the old days. We had to write letters, wait for it to go across countries and across nations,
Yeah.
and half of people that way. But like I said, it's even harder today because of the amount that I must get hundreds of emails a day from bands. I look into them to see who they are, and maybe give them a shot. I'm like, most of them are just one man bands. There's some kid in their bedroom with a
Yeah,
recording equipment, and they're
yeah,
programming drums and bass and guitar. And I'm like,
yeah,
all right, it
yeah,
doesn't sound bad, but I want to give a band a shot. A band who's looking to play live and put a record out, and it's
yeah.
insane
Yeah.
what can be done today. It's just crazy.
I know it's mental, isn't it? But you know,
Mm.
that's how the pop scene went in the 80s, isn't it? The 90s. You
Yeah,
know, it's got the Pet Shop Boys with the bloke on a drum machine behind him, and you know,
Yeah. There you go.
but they don't do nothing for me, I'm afraid. And I got full credit for these guys. I do sit there and do that because
Mm.
obviously I haven't got the friends or whatever, you know, to form these bands. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean, Mike, with that one.
So some stuff still seems to find its way because I quite like a band. It's called Power from Hell from Brazil, and I got quite a few of their albums. And so their influences are sort of Bathory and Onslaught, of course. Now, see, I probably wouldn't have found them in the 80s, if that makes sense. So in some ways, it does help sometimes,
Yeah,
but in another way, there's so much out there now. It's and we're bombarded up by it every day out YouTube and everything, Spotify, Apple Music, and everything. It's a lot of information coming through, and how do you sift through it all? You know.
it's true. The way I found most of the bands when I was a kid was being pen pals with people all over the world, and Ryan, they would tell me about local bands that came from where they were, and I would tell them about my local bands, and just going to the clubs. You went to the clubs, the bars, the pubs on the weekend, and you saw three or
Yep.
four bands, and you didn't know who they were, and you didn't care. You just, oh my God, you just found new bands that way. It's not like
Yeah.
that today.
and you know, I mean, that's how
Um,
we got started. The way we got started back in the 80s was there was a disused church in Bristol called Trinity Church, and
mm,
this guy used to put all the punk bands on. Every Thursday night there'd be a punk band on, and we used to get as the opening band every Thursday night. Now you don't get that anymore. You don't get the local band that's opening up. I mean, we've got Kerry King in Bristol next week, and I think he's with Fear Factory. But you don't get a local band open, which you used to do in the 80s. You would give the
yeah.
local bands, a foot up to get in front of mainstream crowds and play their music, but it doesn't happen anymore. All these bands tour as a package now. We've got next, later on in the year, we've got Destruction, Testament, and who else is it, John? Victory coming to the Colston Hall.
Victory, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No local band opening up for them, and it's such a shame really, because there's quite a big music scene in Bristol, but they can't hop onto these shows.
It's
Yeah.
terrible, and I always felt there was when you're an established band or a band with a big following, it's like Destruction bands. I always felt it was their obligation to put local bands on when they went to each town that they played in, because when you think about back in the day, Ozzy would take out all these up and coming bands and they would break big. Motley
Yeah.
Crue,
Yeah.
Metallica, people knew who they were,
Yeah.
but would they have made it without Ozzy? Maybe, but he gave them that break, and I feel it's not there
Yeah.
today. I see Guns N' Roses out on tour a year ago with Carrie Underwood. Beautiful girl to look at, but Carrie Underwood could sell out any stadium in the world if she wanted to. Why not give that opening slot to some up and coming band who's going to take over when we're all gone? Because who's going to be the next
Exactly. Yeah.
AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Metallica? Who's taking? Who's going to play the big arenas when they're gone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. It's a good point. But I think because nowadays, because they, you know, when I was a kid, they would come to your town. You know, Iron Maiden would come and play the local theatre. Now we've got to go and travel to them, haven't we? Now we've got to go to Wembley Arena or the NEC or whatever. And to make it count for them, they have to put these bands with them, the big packages, to pull 100,000 people in. Otherwise, you know, they don't make any money. So they need the acts on the bill to sell the tickets.
Yeah.
And I think Kerry King, I think he's he's playing. Is it tomorrow night or next week, John? It's tomorrow night.
Yes, tomorrow, Wednesday. Yeah.
I mean, he's charging 50 quid for a ticket. And I can see by the promotions that are coming on here at the moment that he's struggling to sell tickets.
Yeah, it's hard. It's not easy anymore. It's like, you know, you see today, like more and more festivals are popping up. You know, these small underground ones, larger ones that are out like Wacken, all doing it. I mean, it seems like bands want to focus on trying to get onto the festivals more than playing like the local clubs and shows because they can hit a big audience at one shot. But you limit yourself to getting on those festivals and maybe once or twice a year if you're lucky enough to get there. I mean, you guys have been lucky enough to get on those festivals and you're part of that circuit now. You can do that, but is it still necessary or still important to keep playing local shows or just going on tours, you know, throughout the area, playing different clubs and venues?
I think the problem with the smaller, newer bands, if you like, is that the venues just aren't really there. Here in the UK, so many have shut. I mean, there's most of the venues Steve probably played at, they don't exist anymore in Bristol. Quite major metal venues, you know. So you've got this gap, you know, where they're either playing huge stadiums or they're obscure pubs or clubs or somewhere, you know. There seems to be a missing bit in the middle for a lot of bands, you know. How do they get that next step up to get to, like you say, in the festivals and stuff, you know?
Yeah,
very hard.
It's a shame. Like even here in New York, we've had some of the biggest rock clubs and venues, you know, in the world, like where bands go playing. Now today in Brooklyn, New York, is where most of the clubs are, and you have 8 or 9 rock or metal clubs, which is a great thing. But they're so close to each other, they're drawing the crowds away from each other when they have shows, and they're here for a year, then they're gone, then another one pops up, and then they're gone. I remember back in the day, you went somewhere, and you felt like it was like your second home. You knew everybody that was there. You always ran into somebody, whether you knew them or not. You recognized the face, and now that kind of thing is gone. You go there, you watch a show, and you leave. There's no camaraderie no more. There's no, you know, hanging around with each other, having a drink. It's all missing today.
There is one place in Bristol actually called the Griffon, which is like a metal bar. And they have bands in there, but it's bands that are trying to get onto the scene, and it's a shame because some nights the place is empty, and you feel sorry for these bands because all they want to do is play in front of a reasonable crowd of people. But you know, unless you can get on these tours with these bigger bands passing through, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like the same way, you know, we're not there. There's going to be nothing to take their place. Look at all the bands that headline these festivals nowadays. It's all bands from the 80s and the 90s. You very rarely get a band after the 90s that headline your festivals.
That's true. It's true. It's like a revival type of show in a way where they want to get them back together, and when they do it, sometimes they don't even get the whole band back together. They just find the keyboard player and they put 5 guys around just to have the name. But do you think there's more in the name than in the actual band itself?
Sorry, what was that?
I said, do you think that there's more to the band name than the actual members in the band itself? Because look at Foreigner. There's nobody left in Foreigner anymore. They're out there playing. They were going to retire after Mick Jones couldn't do it anymore. Now they're still out there doing it with all new guys. And there's a lot of bands like that where there's nobody from that original creation. So is it the name that's important?
Well, you reach a place, I think, it's my personal opinion, where you kind of almost become a tribute band if you do that, I think. If there's no members left in the band, it is a bit of a, you know, are you then a tribute act? You know what I mean?
Well,
I suppose.
Me personally, if, I don't know, let's take, for example, Motorhead. If Motorhead came to town next week and played my local place, I wouldn't go to see them because I know for a fact that there's no members of Motorhead in Motorhead anymore. Similar sort of thing, you know. When I go to see a band play, I want to see not so much original, I want to see at least 50% of the original lineup in that band, because that's what I grew up listening to. That's what attracted me to that band in the first place. And obviously, most of the time, it's drummers for me. Metallica have been lucky. They managed to keep the sort of 3 key members of the band, haven't they?
Yeah,
Sure.
very lucky. Yeah.
There's other bands that I just dropped away, and it's just sort of like diluted to one member.
I think there's always key members. I think fans, particularly metal, maybe like Scotty and Anthrax. If I go to see Anthrax, I want Scotty in to be there. Really, there's like, I don't know, talisman, whatever you want to call them. A lot of bands have those people, and I think as long as they're there, like really Steve Grice, is the Onslaught guy, isn't he? Really, and people are going to go see Steve. So, whereas some other bands maybe don't have that strong a player, maybe like Angus Young, AC/DC, another one. You go to see Angus partly, don't you? Really, as well as AC/DC. So
Well, he's the last one. He's the original guy in the band too, right now. Angus. He's the holding the whole thing together. But yet they sell out everywhere they play, and even foreign, and no original members. But I mean, they just played Nemi not long ago. 4,000 or 5,000 seat place, sold out every seat.
Yeah.
I'm like, who am I watching up there? I don't know who's in the band. I mean, I do know some of them. I mean, because they came from other bands from the '80s. So I do know who some of the members are. But I don't remember seeing them in the videos in the '80s. But it's just.
Did they come on with each other? They come on stage. Well,
they should. My name is Brad. I play guitar. Yeah, it's crazy, but we're not going to be here forever. Our time is limited. I'm hoping we get a lot more years. But what happens when we're all gone? Does the music just die with us? I mean, I'm waiting to see what Sharon's going to do next. Ozzy is gone. When Dio left, Wendy came out with a hologram, came out with Dio Disciples, and kept the name going. I don't know what Sharon's got planned, but she's a businesswoman above anything else. When our mourning is over, I don't know what she has planned.
Well, ABBA did it, didn't they, with the Avatars?
Yeah.
Their last tour. And the Blade Runner 2042 film had an avatar of Elvis, wasn't it? So I could see a future maybe where there's holograms on stage people go to see, possibly.
Yeah, Kiss are doing that now. They're working on putting that show for next year. They're trying to get a whole hologram show out there, a whole digital. I don't know what they call it these days, but it'll be Kiss, but no Kiss. This is the future, I guess.
And you all look young again.
Yeah, I feel bad for my kids and my grandkids. They're never gonna know what it's like to see a real band play live.
I know.
They're gonna get all these holograms.
Yeah, it's such a shame when you look back. I mean, watching Slayer at the Marquee in 1982. And just seeing the fans' reaction where they weren't holding their mobile phones up when they came on stage. The band come on stage and everybody goes fucking crazy. Yeah. You don't get that anymore, do you? You get these circle pits like they're on some kind of roundabout going round and round. It looks great from a distance, but you know what I mean? It's kind of not like people who stage dive and jump on top of each other and go crazy. But it was controlled, We had our own security guys to make sure the fans were looked after. But we used to let them come on stage and jump off and go crazy. You don't get that anymore. Everyone's so busy filming it so they can watch it when they get home. It makes me sick.
It is terrible. I mean, it's terrible. Like, I'm lucky that my kids and my grandkids are all into rock and metal. And when they tell me, when they listen to a band, I'm like, I saw that band back in 1981. They're like, you have any videos? Like, no, there's no videos. There's no pictures. We didn't have phones back then. We couldn't even afford a camera. We had just enough money to buy the ticket to get into the show.
I know. Yeah.
It's also there are certain things I've tried to find on the internet from us, and I can't find. There's no footage. There's no footage of when we toured with Motorhead. I can't find anything anywhere. I found some audio recordings, but I can't find any live video footage from when we toured with Motorhead, which is a shame because I'd like to have seen that. And there's one moment I was talking to one of you guys last week. I think the one moment when we played in Italy somewhere. I think it was Milan, AC Milan's stadium, the car park. We played in this huge circus tent, and I got quite friendly with Phil Fiano, and I said, Phil, do us a favour, could you go on stage and introduce us tonight? And he went on stage and introduced us, and I'd love to have that on video, to sit
Somebody somewhere probably has it, but it wasn't common back then. We didn't. The cameras back then were the size of a small car.
I would just love to see that moment when he came on and introduced us as kids. I mean, we were only like 21 years old then, 20 years old.
Yeah,
that would be great to see that. I found some footage of Motorhead on that tour. I know it was that tour because I got photographs of Phil wearing this particular vest that he wore every night. So I found footage of them, but I can't find any of us.
Yeah. I'll put it out there, and hopefully somebody has it, and I'm going to look around myself now. You never know. There's that one guy with that big camera on his back that you didn't notice, and he probably has a video of it. We'll find it. Hey, but listen, John, see, I'm going to let you guys go now because I want to play some songs. We're going to add this on the next week's show, and I appreciate you guys taking the time out to be with me today. I mean, Reside in Furnace, it's already officially out on Metal on Metal Records. Yawita is a great girl. I love her. She does a good job with her label. So, I'm hoping that we get a new record next year from you guys. I hope it continues what you're doing now because you just put out an amazing album to me, and I want to hear more of this.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And get here to the USA because I need to see Insult in one of our festivals over here. I'll talk to some of the local promoters here and try to get you on something. It'll be great.
I'll be brilliant, mate. Yeah.
Thank
you, guys. Take care. Have a great night.
Cheers,
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The holy war rages on. They maim and slaughter to the
right, more brand new insult with I'm getting a feedback here. Holy Wars, Sea of Tears. All right, I'm not sure what's going on here. We're getting a lot of feedback in the microphone. Let me try to do this one more time here. Well, we're having a lot of problems here today. All right, well, we're going to go into the music anyway. We'll worry about that later on. Hopefully, you don't hear it that way. But you know what? Christian wanted to hear Trouble, the Swedish band, with the song Woman. So let's get that on for him right now. And I'll try to figure out what's going on here with the microphone.
She's sneaking out into the night. She's got only one thing to her mind. She's gonna take your whole life. Leave all our troubles behind. Such a lovely young woman, but she's so mixed up. She can't take it no more, so she decides to give it up. To give it up. Woman, nobody understood what's wrong. Woman, nobody could you seem so strong. Woman, nobody understood what's wrong. Woman, nobody could you seem so strong. She disappeared into the night, and the paper called out she was gone. What did she leave the room at night? I guess they knew before long. I think it's disgusting how people are disgusting. They did not bother before I died, and now she don't hear them lying. Woman, nobody understood what's wrong. Woman, nobody could you seem so strong. Woman, nobody understood what's wrong. Woman, nobody could you seem so strong.
She seemed so strong. But now she's gone. Wasn't nothing to be done. And who's to blame? Nobody wanna take the shame.
right, there you go. Woman by Trouble. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't know what's going on. I think we got gremlins in the switchboard tonight. Everything is going out one after the other. The input, the output, the control panel, everything. So hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear right now. Let me give Gus a call. Let's get this interview going before anything else happens tonight. If you can hear the phone ringing, we're in good shape.
Hey there. We've sent your call to our voice message system. 6473785.
Let me hang up there before we give out Gus's number. We'll try again in a minute. If you can hear it ringing, it's going through. It must just be on Gus's end right now. Let me try one more time here. Well, I'll tell you what. You know what? Let's play a sacrifice tune while I get him on the line instead of making you guys listen and wait for me to dial it up. Here's We Will Not Survive.
To the
go. Brand new sacrifice. We will not survive. Let's try to get Gus one more time. I spoke to him yesterday, so I know he knows that the interview was today. But let's try one more. Here we go.
Hey there. We've sent your call to our voice message system. 647.
All right, looks like we're having no luck with Gus. I left him a message off air, so we'll see if he calls in. We'll just wait until he does, if he does. If not, we'll just keep the show going like we always do, right? Hey, well, listen, I guess the big news this week was that Megadeth announces that they're putting out their final record and the final tour, which will never really be the final tour. Maybe Dave Mustaine might be the one guy that actually says, I'm retiring, no more touring, and actually follows through on it or doesn't do it. I don't know. My bet is 18 months after the tour. First, I think the tour is going to kick off probably sometime next year. And he's saying it'll be a couple of year tour, I guess, to go all around the world. They're not going to rush it. But I think within 18 months of them doing the last show, they'll come back. Or they'll pull a Slayer thing and say, well, we never said we weren't going to do shows. We're just not going to tour anymore. You know, they'll start doing one-off festivals here and there, stuff like that. But, you know, who knows? Dave might just be that guy. You never know. He's kind of dicky, so who knows with him. But that was the news. And what I wanted to say earlier was that when I played the first set of music before the interview with Insult, I guess the microphone went out. People were saying I sit at the switchboard. It's jumping all over the place tonight. I can't control it, unfortunately. I have no control over technology. But what I was saying is I played Merciful Fate, Leave My Soul Alone. And that came off the Return of the Vampire. It was a bootleg that had the early demos on there and a couple of early cuts with King Diamond that had different members in the band of Merciful Fate back then. And it said that it came out in 92, but I remember getting that record like sometime in the 80s. I would definitely have not have bought a vinyl record in 92. I was married and very busy that year, so I wasn't going to record shops. So I know it had to have come out early. I don't know if there was an original bootleg version of it, then Roadrunner put out their version of it. I have no idea, but I know I got that in the 80s. That was for sure. And during that set, just to remind everybody, we played Oz, Free Me, Leave Me, Merciful Fate, Leave My Soul Alone, and Talent, Preacher of Evil. We went into Bloodthirsty by Insult right before the interview, so that's a little recap of what was going on there. And talking about the guys at Insult, they were supposed to have a show. One of the festivals coming up where they're going to do the Onslaught at the Power from Hell. Psych Killer was supposed to be part of that, and now he's not. And now it was announced that Psych Killer is back in Onslaught again. So I think this is his third or maybe fourth turn with the band. I don't know what happened with the last singer that's been with them for the last few years, but it seems like Onslaught definitely have a singer problem. They can't hold or maintain a singer in that group. I mean, I'm glad Psy's back in there. I mean, outside of Paul Mahoney, he was the voice of the band for me, so I kind of like that. But in, out, in, out, in, out, and in between, Onslaught keep putting out new records with different singers, and after a while it just gets so confusing, and the vibe and the sound of the records keep changing with every singer too. So, I mean, it is what it is. This is the music business, the way it goes. But Psy's back in there, so we'll see what happens. All right, let's play some more music. We'll save the rest of the sacrifice for later, in case Gus does call in. Maybe we'll try him one more time in a little bit. But how about we do, we played that last week. I didn't erase it from the playlist. How about we do some Minotaur, The Power of Darkness? All right, that was brand new Sodom, the spirits that I called. John wanted to hear it. There you go. Before that, Sacrilege with I Can Hear the Silence. That goes out to my good friend, the bass player of the band who listens to the show all the time, Jeff Rowland. We need new music, Jeff. So you and Bill get together. Let's get a new Sacrifice record, a Sacrilege record coming out pretty soon. We shouldn't even say the word sacrifice tonight because he never called in or answered the phone. I think we're gonna have to book him, but I will wait till next week to do that. I've learned my lesson about booking guests the same day they don't call in. The next day you get a phone call that they were in a major accident or something bad happened to them. Then you feel horrible about it. But so wait till next Sunday night. Before Sacrilege, I Can Hear the Silence. We had Attacker with Kingdom of Iron, Minotaur, The Power of Darkness. We got a great show for everybody next week. It's the last show of the month. We're not going to be doing a show on Labor Day weekend. I might actually go to the Rage Armageddon Fest. So I got to see how I'm feeling that day, what's going on with the family. But next weekend, Matt Mauer from Morbid Saint is going to be on the show. I'm sorry, I am completely tongue-tied today from Mortal Sin. This is what happens when you take a week off, you go on vacation. The brain doesn't catch up in time. Matt Mauer from Mortal Sin is on next week. Rick Hanolt from Nefarious, Exodus guitar player. So don't forget to tune in next Sunday night. It'll be a great show for everybody. All right, let's get on some tension while I get my bearings here tonight. I'm really losing. I guess all these technical difficulties have set me back a little bit here, but tension, One Nation Underground. Synthese, Med Race, Femon, you wanted to hear that? There you go, buddy. Before that, Abattoir with Stronger Than Evil, Dagger, Not Afraid of the Night, Tension, One Nation, Underground, and we started that thing off with brand new Sodom, The Spirits That I Call. John wanted to hear new Sodom, there you go. We're going to wrap things up here in a few minutes. We'll play one more song and then we're going to call it a day. But don't forget, next week, Matt Mauer from Mortal Sin is our guest. Rick Hanault from The Furious, a great new band. It's sort of a supergroup if you think about it. All the guys that are in that band. We'll be talking both of them next week, so don't forget to tune in. How about we wrap it up here tonight with one more song? But I want to thank Steve and John for actually remembering to be a part of tonight's show. So there you go. I don't know what happened with Gus. I apologize for that and all the technical difficulties that we've been having. The mic going in and out, the speakers going in and out. Nothing working right tonight. I guess I should have paid more attention to the switchboard before we started the show, but I thought I did. But there you go. All right, we'll see everybody next Sunday night. Take care. Have a great week. Let's close it out with some Enforcer from Chicago. High Treason. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.